I have a second channel, Cube Comp MTDX. Hey everybody, we're back yet again with the Internet Explorer computer. You see the IE logo on the side of it. I've installed an AMD Sempron CPU. It's either the, I think it's the 3200 plus or the 3400 plus. Can't remember exactly which. We'll find out in a second. It's a 2 GHz CPU with just 256 kilobytes of L2 cache. Which, yeah, that's painfully low for today's for today's software. But just think, there were actually there was also Semprons with just 128K of L2. This is one of the ones with 256, so it's not as painful. So, what we're going to do in this video is we're going to see how high we can overclock this thing. So I got it installed. I went ahead and set up the all the settings and stuff. And we're just going to see what we can do with this thing. So it's a Sempron 3400 plus Palermo core. At stock, it's a 2 GHz CPU, multiplier out of 10, 200 MHz bus speed, 800 MHz hyper transport link. So yeah, on the socket 754s, the Semprons had the same HD link speed as the Athlon 64s, whereas on socket 939, they had different ones, and I believe AM2 as well. So have just 256K of L2 cache. The Sempron 3200 plus Socket 754 has just 128K. So we're going to see what this thing can do. And I figured this time I'll just go ahead and record while I'm in the BIOS fiddling around with this thing. So one thing I've already done is I took a screenshot of our memory timings for the various JEDEC settings, and because this CPU is not a black edition, of course, so its multiplier locked upward. You cannot increase the multiplier above 10 in this case. So we're going to see what this thing can do. What's nice is this motherboard does have a overclock failure recovery built into the BIOS. So if it fails to post, it will let you back in. That way you can adjust settings. It's a whole lot better than having to reset the CMOS battery. Or reset the CMOS, I mean. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the memory down to 333, because when we start increasing the bus, what will happen is it will raise the memory clock as well. If we raise it high enough, we'll want to go in and adjust the timings manually to the DDR400 setting. Yeah, DDR400. This comes to show how far technology has come since this setup came out. Go to jumper free configuration, and this motherboard, I think I've mentioned it in previous videos, I've been having to manually set everything in this thing. As a matter of fact, is it still doing it? Let's see here. It thinks our CPU is an engineering sample. I probably would need to flash the BIOS, but it's It's done this with every chip I've put in this board thus far, at least recently. This is the same motherboard I tried out those two Mobile Athlon 64 chips on. Go back to jumper free configuration. Let's just go ahead and start increasing the bus a little bit. Let's go to 220. Just go until it can't post anymore. So now we're at 2.2 gigahertz, should be. Yep. So multiplier 10. Pretty easy to calculate what our core frequency is going to be when you go in here and mess around with the bus. Let's go to 230. Yeah, unfortunately with this you can't key it in on this board. I don't know why they didn't make it like that. Try to demonstrate what happens if it fails to post. Okay, let's keep going. 240. Now usually 240 is kind of when we start to hit a brick wall. At least that was the case with the first Athlon 64 mobile I did, which was the Newark Core 90nm, which is similar to the Sempron being a 90nm chip. Alright, let's slow down this a little bit. Let's do 245. Let's see if it will go. It's not happy. I think we've done hit the brick wall. So, if you reset it, it's funny, I did hear a post beep, but nothing on the screen. So what you do is shut it off. Huh. Yeah, it went back. Here's what it does. If it fails to post, it will let you back in to reconfigure stuff. Let's start increasing the voltage a little bit on the CPU. It's at 1.4. Let's just go to 1.45. See if we can get it to start up. Now, I'm not sure if it's the CPU or if it's the board or what it is. It's always like 240 is that brick wall. Everyone acts a little different. Yeah, it's always like 240 is 240 is like the brick wall. Try a couple of things here. Let's decrease the HT to 3. I'm gonna add some more voltage. Why not? Probably more than necessary, but since this is the old setup, I could care less if I overvolt it too much. Let's see here. It's still acting weird. I'm not sure if it's the RAM that's causing her issues or what. Let's just try something else here. Let me just manually key in the DDR400 timings. Let's take a quick look at our monitor. Things look fine there. Okay, everybody, it looks like I got past the 240 roadblock. It was, of course, the RAM. I was able to get it stable by setting the memory setting in the BIOS to, I believe, 166. So if we pull up calculator, once it comes up. So if we do, it's funny to store my history. Okay, whatever. So you can see the FSB to DRAM ratio is CPU divided by 12. So if we take 2500, which is the core frequency, divide that by 12, you get 208, which is what it's running at. So when you take the stock clock of 2000, you divide that by 12, you get 166, and that's why I got the BIOS setting set to 166, and I had to go in and custom key in the timings. So the stock timings for 200 megahertz are 3, 3, 3, and 9. No, excuse me, 3, 3, 3, and 8. And I got them set to 3, 4, 4, and 9. Because it's actually, the memory's overclocked just a hair bit. It's at 208. So I haven't really done a hard stress test yet, but I mean, we're running at 2.5, and this kind of makes me want to consider throwing the Athlon, the mobile Athlon 64 3400 plus back in this thing, see if I could get it to go any higher. Now I am throwing a good bit of voltage at the processor. I mean, it's an old CPU. I could care less. I'm pushing like 1.5, 1.55 through it. It is starting to make it run a little warmer, as you can see. The core is getting a little bit warmer than it was before. So as long as that stays, I believe what was below 69 degrees C, we should be fine. I can adjust the fan curve on that fan if necessary. Yeah, that fan that we're using is the CPU cooler we're using is one of an OEM system. It's it's branded ASUS. It was probably it probably came with an HP computer with maybe a something like an Athlon 64X2 or maybe a Phenom, first gen Phenom. They had them too, but so I'm gonna go into the BIOS and play around some more. I'm not gonna include that portion since I have included some footage of playing around the BIOS, but that's kind of, it can be time consuming and I don't want to bore anybody out. So anyways, let me go play some more with it and see what we can get out of it. Okay, everybody. So it looks like 2.5 gigahertz is the max we're going to be able to get out of this thing. So let's go and have a look at CPUZ and show you the results. It's pretty much the same as what I had just previously shown you. I wasn't sure if I went through every single little thing or not. And we're going to pull up hardware monitor as well. You can tell this thing is still. I hit the wrong one again. You can tell this. You can tell this Sempron is not going to be all that fast because of that very small amount of cache. I mean, 256K is just not a lot. Just to put it in perspective, 256K of L2 cache is what an Intel Pentium 3 CPU had, or at least the Coppermine Pentium 3. And also the first gen Pentium 4, the Willamette Core Pentium 4s, had only 256K of L2 cache. Same goes for the Celeron D processors under the Socket 478 platform. Just to give you an idea. So I do have the volts cranked up on this thing quite a bit to keep it stable. So it does make it run a bit warmer. It still doesn't seem to get all that hot with all things considered. I mean, I do have the CPU core in this thing set on a fan curve, so it ain't ramping the fan up to 100%. As you may have heard from time to time in this video, like when this thing was posting, it would ramp the fan up from 100 to 100% for a moment. As you could tell, it was quite loud. So we're at 2.5 gigahertz. Our HT is at 750. I had to set the hyper transport down to 3 times because it would not run stable at 4 times. That's the thing about these older Socket 754 platforms. Now, had this been on a Socket 939 or AM2, I should have been able to keep, like for example, with the hyper transport set at 4 times, it would be at 1,000 right here. So, as you probably know, the Socket 754 Athlon 64s, their HT is 800, whereas the 939s was 1,000, but the Semprons on the 939 was at 800. And usually, not all the time, but usually, you would get you could get it stable at 250 and with 4 times to have 2,000. So let's go and look at the memory. Memory is at 208 megahertz, so in DDR that's about 416 megahertz. A little overclock. I got the timings bumped up to 3, 4, 4, 9. Normally at 200 they will be at 3, 4, 4, and 8. I had to increase these last 3 here to get this thing stable. That managed to do it. So for some reason this thing is the graphics drivers are not getting along with Windows 10, even the one for the 2400 Pro graphics card, which I swapped in this video. So I think that just about wraps it up for this. So we managed to squeeze another 500 megahertz out of this old Sempron, which is not too bad. But of course, given the fact that this old Sempron has a horribly low amount of L2 cache, it doesn't really. I mean, the overclock did help somewhat, but when you got that little bit of cache, cause this thing to pretty much stall all the time. It's just, as you see, it's pegged at 100% right now. It just doesn't really make that much of a difference. But anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well everybody, that's it for this video, but don't forget there's a lot more interesting stuff on the channel to check out. Also, if this is your first time visiting this channel, feel free to subscribe to keep your channel, and also don't forget to tick the bell so that way you'll get notified of new video posts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, but if you really didn't like it, there is the alternative option available as well. Also, feel free to check out my second channel, CubeComp MTDX. There you'll find videos about bicycling, weather, elevator tours, and all sorts of other neat, interesting stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to come back, and thank you for your support.